Today we're going to be building this layout here using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We're going to start from mobile and work our way up to tablet and desktop. I've already exported all of the assets that we need for this project, such as the logo, the images and a few icons. Regarding the content, I'm just going to be copying and pasting everything from here, and let's get going with creating our project. Create a new folder. I've already made one called Zoo365 tutorial, and in here is where we're going to be creating all of our files. And I'm going to open this with Visual Studio Code by doing left shift, right click and open PowerShell window here. Then if I type code dot, this is just going to open the project folder in Visual Studio Code, but feel free to use whatever code editor you wish. And if you want to open your project folder, you just go to file and open folder. That's pretty much it. Now let's create our project structure and then we'll go from there. First of all, let's create a styles folder. So CSS, this is where all of our styles are going to go. We need images folder, for short IMG, and we need a JavaScript folder, for short JS. And last but not least, inside here, we need our index.html file, which is basically going to be our homepage. Now, inside the CSS, we need to create another file called main.scss, as we'll be using SCSS today. And this is going to be compiled to a normal CSS file, which I will show you in a second. But create a main.scss file in here. Then for the images, I'm actually going to reveal this in the file explorer, and I'm going to copy and paste some of the images that I've exported from Adobe XD. As you can see, I've got the logo, the menu, a few images and an icon. Pretty cool. Now that we have the images, let's go to the JS folder and let's create a new file called script.js, and let's leave it as it is. Now, because we're using SCSS, we need to compile this, and there are a couple of ways of doing it. You can, in Visual Studio Code, you can do it with an extension called Live Sass Compiler. So if you go here to extensions, just search for Live Sass Compiler and click install. But if you're using another code editor that doesn't have extensions like this, you can actually go to the Sass website and install their tooling, and then you can do it through the command line. The only bad thing about the command line is that you're just gonna have an extra command line on your tabs, but it's not a big deal. But obviously it's nice not to have so many windows open, I guess. So that's why I like using this. And the other tool that I'm going to use is the live server. It's created by the same person, Ritwik Day. This is basically going to reload the page for us every time we make a change. It's a hot reload server, a local development server, which is pretty good. I strongly recommend you that you install this. It's a pretty nice tool. There is an alternative for this if you're not using Visual Studio Code. I think it's called Live Reload or something like that. It's free, you can download it and it does the same job. Now that we got this out of the way, the first thing that we need to do, let's open the Explorer and let me show you how we can first of all watch for any SCSS changes. In Visual Studio Code, here at the bottom, we have this Watch SCSS. If I click this, watch what happens in here in the CSS folder. This main.scss file is compiled into this .main.css file, and we're going to be including this file into our index.html, as our browser doesn't really understand what SCSS is, so that's why we need to compile it to a normal CSS file. Now let me show you how we can start the local development server. If you right click on the index.html here, you will see this open with live server, and this should open the browser for me. Here it is, it opened it on my second screen, and as you can see, my website is currently blank. I'm going to toggle this to the right side of my screen like so, and let me just make it a little bit smaller because we're starting with mobile. This might be a good way to have a visual representation of what is going on. And for the output here of the SCSS, we can definitely close this and it will pop up every time we make a mistake, which is a good thing. So let me close this. It will run in the background, which is good. And now we should be able to start building our HTML and CSS. Okay, let's close scripts.js as we won't need it just yet. And let's just focus on the index.html and main.scss. I'm going to close the Explorer now, so we have a little bit more space, and I've zoomed in quite a bit, I believe, just so you can see a little bit better, but it's also not too much. Now, to quickly create an HTML page, we can use the Emmet abbreviation tool, and all you have to do is start typing HTML, and as you can see, a few options are popping up. And what I'm going to do is just choose HTML5 and we are done. This is a very basic HTML5 and we can start working with it. The first thing that I'm going to do inside the head, I'm going to change the title to Zoo365. Save this, and if the page didn't reload the first time, sometimes you have to reload it manually. So let's refresh, and as you can see, the title has changed. Hopefully now every time I save this page and the SCSS file, this will reload automatically. So if I save this, you can probably see that it's reloading automatically, which is pretty cool. There are a couple of things that we need to do now. First of all, we need to link our style sheet, and also we need to link our script. Let's do that. So to link our style sheet, we can start typing link and then just choose link CSS. And all we need to do, so we have link rel style sheet href equals style.css, but we need to remove this style.css as our file is called main.css. So what I'm going to do is go to the folder css/main.css, and this is the file that we want to bring. We're going to have to do something very similar for the script. I'm going to do script and then source. We need to go to JS and then script.js, and we can also defer this script by doing defer, which means that this script is going to load after our HTML has finished loading. And you might sometimes see that script is also put here at the bottom, and it's more or less the same thing, I guess, but I'm going to do it here at the top. The next thing that we might as well do is bring the font that we're going to be using, and that is Poppins. So I'm going to go and open the browser, go to Google Fonts and search for the font Poppins or whatever you prefer. And the weight I'm going to be using today will be regular. So I'm going to select this and I will be using the bold, which is 700. I definitely wouldn't select every single one. Just select the ones that you're going to use, and that might just make it a little bit faster, I guess, in terms of downloading. So there are two ways of including the font. The first one is with link in our HTML, and the second one is by importing it into the style sheet. Both work quite well, but I believe that this method is a little bit better. So I'm going to copy this and paste it inside here like so. Let me just tidy this up a little bit. And also I'm going to copy this font family Poppins sans serif and paste it inside the main.css, but I'm just commenting for now just because I'm going to need it a little bit later on. So I'm actually going to close this now as we're done with the font. Now that we have set up a very basic HTML, let's just quickly type something. So let's do h1 hello and save. Now what I'm going to do now is start writing some of the reset styles, and as we go along I'll probably be adding more, and I'll be adding different components that we can reuse and so on. So first of all, we need to make sure that our CSS is working, and to do this you can simply just type something like body and then just change the background color to whatever you like. So let's go with this blurry wood color. As you can see, this changed the background color for me, which means that the CSS is working. And if I go to the Explorer and click on main.css, you should see that this has been compiled. Obviously there is not much different at the moment, but it has been compiled into the normal.main.css file, which is pretty cool. Now before we start writing any reset styles, I want to start with organizing my file, and I quickly want to show you how you could do that potentially if you're working on a bigger project. What you can do is put a comment here at the top and just maybe do CSS table of contents like so. And then what you can do is, let me close this by the way, and what you can do is number your content. So for example 1.0 could be variables, and maybe 2.0 could be your resets. And then what I would do is I would actually make a comment. So inside here, we'll be adding our variables. So what I would do is make a comment and just put 1.0 and then variables, like so, and close. And now as our SCSS document gets a little bit bigger, we can actually see we have this table of contents here. We actually have this table of content in here, and I can just grab something and just find it straight away. I mean, it makes it just a little bit easy, not a big deal. I probably won't use it today just to save time, but here it is if you want to use it. And I'm definitely going to be commenting some of my sections, of course, just to make things a little bit easier to understand. But now let's start writing some of our variables that we're going to be reusing throughout the layout. Now I'm going to be using the normal CSS variables instead of using the SCSS variables, and the reason for this is because we can actually manipulate them. So let me show you what I mean. If I start creating a few variables, let's start with root. This is how you create a few variables, by the way. Let's call our first color primary color, and let's give it a color of black. And let's create a secondary color, and let's give it a color of white, so 3 Fs. Also, we can bring our fonts, so let's do font family, and then we can do, actually this is what I wanted to do, copy this, and we're done, and I don't need this anymore. So we have those 3 variables in here, but the way you would create a variable inside SCSS would be, for example, if you want to create a primary color variable, you do $ primary color, and then you do equals, and then the color like so. So let me show you the difference. Oops, it's 2 dots. Let me save, and let me show you the difference. If I open this and inspect it, you will see that inside here, inside the styles, you will see the root colors. So we can always manipulate them with JavaScript if we wish to. Maybe you want to make a light mode and dark mode. So that would be very easy to manipulate, but you can't really see the SCSS variable because that has been processed and we can't really change anymore. So this is the difference pretty much. I used to use the SCSS variables because they are quite helpful as well. So let me put this on the side and close this, and let's see how we can actually use those variables. So now we can potentially start writing some of our reset styles. And to do this, I'm going to grab this command, paste in here, change it to 2, and I'm going to put reset, like so, and save. Now you can actually download reset styles, pre-made reset styles online and just start using them. But I'm just going to make my own ones. We're not going to cover absolutely everything, but I'm just going to cover a few basic ones. And what reset styles are supposed to do is basically give us this consistency throughout all browsers, because different browsers used to render things differently and it was kind of annoying. So that's why we use reset styles. Saying this, most of the good browsers nowadays use Chromium and they all behave fairly similarly, which is a really good thing. But saying this, we still need to reset a couple of things. For example, if we open the page super quickly and inspect it, you will see that the body tag has a random margin of 8, which we definitely don't want. And maybe if we inspect the H1, you will see that the H1 has random margins to the top and the bottom as default. So we'll potentially reset them as well, because I don't want them to look this way. So let me close this, put it to the side, and let's start. So what I'm going to start doing now is changing a few things on the HTML, and I'll explain as I go along. So font size, I'm going to set to 62.5%. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to be using ems and rems. Now, we used to use pixels, and again, when I use in Adobe XD, I'm working with pixels. What this does for me is I can easily convert pixels into ems or rems. So let me explain this. If I had to reset the body font size for some reason, I would normally go for font size, and as a default, usually you have it set to 16, I believe. but what I would have to do is put 18 pixels and leave it as it is. Now, what I can do with rems, because I've done this 62.5%, what I can do, I know that 1.8 rem is actually equals 1.8 pixels. So that's why we're pretty much doing this. It's very easy to convert from pixels to rems, but you can read this in a little bit more detail online if you wish to. It's a pretty good trick. The next thing that I want to reset on the HTML is the line height, and this is more of a preference, I believe, so I'm going to put this as 1. And another thing that I want to reset is the scroll behavior. Scroll behavior will allow us to, if you click on an anchor link to scroll down the website or up, it will scroll smoothly. Now, it can be a little bit annoying, but I will have an anchor on this website, so it's gonna just make it look a little bit better when we click on it. And now we can actually focus on the body here and reset some of the body styles. As I showed you earlier, we definitely need to reset the margin. So what I'm gonna do is margin set to 0. I'm gonna set the background color to our primary color here, which we set. And to do this, we can use the var keyword and then -- primary color like so. And if we save, you will see that it changes. So the next thing that I want to do is set the color of the text to be white as default. So what I'm going to do is bring the other variable and put it to second color. Just like this, we have white. And I definitely want to reset the font family. So let's do that quickly. Font family. And this will be equals var font family as we set it up here. So that should now change if we zoom in a little bit. And if I save, you'll see that this changes to Poppins, which is pretty cool. And the next thing that I want to change is the font weight, just in case, to be honest. So I'm going to do, let's do 400, as I only have 400 and 700, I believe. 400 and 700. And I want to make sure that the font size is set to 1.6 rem. Usually it is 1.6 pixels as default, but just in case, I guess I can do that as well. And let me zoom out. And now what I'm thinking is, let's start by building a few things, and I'm definitely going to be adding some more reset styles as we build some of the elements, and we'll just work our way up. So if we go back to the HTML, I'm going to start by adding a skip to content link. And this is basically good for accessibility, just because, I mean, when I start making it, you will see what I mean. But just because if you start tabbing on the website, you would probably have to go through the logo, this item, this item, this item, this item, this item, and it would take a lot of tabs to go to the main content. And this is why I'm going to be adding this skip to main content. And this is why I'll be adding this skip to main content. And it's pretty easy to do. So what I'm going to have to do is create a link with the class name with whatever we give it. So let's do skip to content, and let's give it an href of maybe main, and I will have to remember to put this down to our main content later on. And of course we need to close the link, and inside the link I'm just going to put skip to content like so. And obviously I don't want this to be visible on the page, so what I'm going to do is a little bit of CSS trickery. So this only appears when they enter the website and they tap on the keyboard. So let's have a look at how we can do that. I will be jumping in and out of the HTML and CSS for now. That's the way it is. Things will never be the same, but yeah, let's go. So first, skip to content. And for this, we need to position it as absolute. I'm going to do top as 20 pixels. Let's do padding of 6 just to make it look a little bit better. Background color can be black, so I'm going to use the variable color of primary color. Then border, I'm going to set to 1 pixel, solid, and just some gray color. Let's also change the color. So color of white. And I'm going to bring the variable secondary color, and then let's do box sizing, maybe border box. This means that the padding will be added to the width instead of being at let's say 100 pixels plus 6 on left, right, top and bottom. So this is what box sizing does. And just in case, I'm gonna give it a Z index of 2 or 3, maybe 10. I mean, it has to be a big Z index just in case, I guess. But here it is, or skip to content button. Obviously we're zoomed in quite a lot, but here is how it looks like. We also want to move this button on somewhere outside our window on top of it, just because if it's on the left side and if you open it on a really big screen, you might end up seeing it. So that's why it's safe to start from the top. So what I'm going to do is transform, and then we're going to do translate X, and then just put minus 100% or something like that. And then let's do transition. To animate this, or transition will be 0.3 seconds, and this should do the job. So as you can see, it's now gone, and we need to bring it back when we focus on it, when we hit tab. So to do this, because we're using SCSS, we can actually do it inside here. We can actually do ampersand and then focus, and then we can start writing our styles here, and the focus will be basically transform, and then we need to do transform translate X, and then we just need to bring it back, which could be like 14%. And hopefully if we go back to the website and press enter and then press tab, you will see it coming up, and it's actually Y, it's not X, it's the Y axis, sorry. So that should now work. Minus 100Y, and then hopefully there should be 0. Okay, maybe that needs to be a little bit more. Okay, that should do the job. So if I do tab now, as you can see, it appears, and then if I hit enter, you will see that it's actually hitting this main anchor, which is a good thing. So let me demonstrate it one more time. So I'm going to remove this anchor. Let me open the window a little bit bigger. So I've gone to the website, I press enter, I do tap on the keyboard, it appears, and if you hit enter, it will go to this anchor, which we'll create later on. And by the way, it would be nice if this was kind of like in the middle. So the trick to do that could be that we do it the old school way, where we just go left 50%, and then do we need to, and we probably need to like calculate how big the button is, so it's kind of in the middle. I'm gonna guess it, so margin left minus 50 pixels. This is a pure guess, but that's how you do it if you want to center it, I guess. So minus half of the size. I mean, I do have a ruler here, so I could just grab it. Oh, just do and see where it is. So 134 divided by 2 is 66, I believe. So we can definitely remove this and go back. So I can do 66. I wasn't too off. I wasn't too far off. And yeah, here we go. It's in the middle. We can press enter and this will scroll to the bottom. Okay, we are pretty much done with this, but there is one more thing that I need to mention, and this is the print. So we definitely don't want this to appear on print. So what you can do is outside here, we can do add media, print, and then we can do skip the content and then display none, like so. And hopefully this will not display on print. Not too bad. Let's have a look at the next step. So the next step would be to actually recreate this hero section here, which has the logo, the navigation, we have a heading, a little bit of a paragraph in here, a button, and so on. And one thing that I need to mention is that there is a difference between the desktop version here, that we have the menu showing like this, and on the mobile and tablet we have it as a hamburger menu. So we need to take this into consideration and do it properly. So let me show you how we can do that. First of all, let's focus on creating the element. So I'm going to be writing HTML5, of course, and everybody should be. And I'm going to try to make everything as usable and I guess as accessible as possible in very short amount of time. So let's start by writing a header. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the BEM methodology, which means that we pretty much give every single container a class name. So this one is going to be called header. And the reason for this is that if we decide to actually change this for some reason, we probably won't change this one particularly, but if we decide to change this for some reason and change it to a div later on, for whatever reason, then we still have a class and the styles apply to this class. And this is why it's kind of like a good idea to do this. So let's go back and put it as header, because we want to have HTML5, of course. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a container, which means that at some point when we extend the browser, at some point we're going to have kind of like a max width, because I don't want it to be like full screen for everybody, because some people have like 4K screens and it would just look ridiculous. So that's why I'm gonna do a container for the content, but the images will be full width, I guess. So that's something to test, I guess. But anyways, let's create a div with the class of container. And to do this, there is a shortcut. You can just put dot for class and just do container and press enter, and this will create a div for you. So now that we have this container div, we need to create our logo, and I'm going to wrap the logo into an h1 tag, just like so. Give it a class name of, if you use BEM, we should be giving it a class name of header logo. So we might as well do that. Header underscore logo. And then inside here, we're going to bring a little bit of text, which I'll show you in a second why. But we could do span, and let's do zoo 365 or something like this. We could do zoo 365 for now, and then we can create a link, a href, and this link we know that is going to be going to the homepage, so I can just do slash and then close this link. And inside here we can do an image and then do source image logo.svg, and we can do alt zoo 365, and then we could potentially also add the loading lazy, but I don't think that this is super necessarily here, and I think that we might get like a little jump of the logo because of the loading lazy. So I'm going to remove this and maybe introduce this a little bit later on. For the link, we can potentially give it an area label of zoo 365 logo or something like this, and let me save this. And as you can see now, we have an h1 which has zoo 365 as text, and here is the logo in slightly different font. Now the issue is that I don't really want to see this on my page, but at the same time I don't really want to leave my header without a title, just because the HTML outliner won't like it. As you can see, we have zoo 365, but if I was to remove the text from here, save it and reload, there is nothing. So that's why I was adding this text here. Just to say, this won't result in errors, but for screen readers, I assume that it could be quite helpful. So that's pretty much the reason. Let me go back, and to solve this problem, there is a really cool trick that I took from Bootstrap. So let's give this span a class name of screen reader sr only. So what we can do with this class name, we go back to the main.css, and inside here we can do screen only. And as I said, I've taken this from Bootstrap. I think it's a pretty cool way of doing it, but if you know a better way of doing it, let me know. And we just need to basically hide this. So what I'm going to do, the issue is that if you display this if we put display none, it's an easy job, but we kind of do want this text to be displayed on screen readers and so on. So that's why we're going to be doing this trick. So the first thing that we want to do is to position this absolute, and we want to put the width as 1 pixel, height as 1 pixel. Then we want the padding to be 0, You can probably tell what's going on now. The margin needs to be -1 pixel. We need overflow to be hidden. What else? Clip, we need to be rect, just like my bank account, like so. And then white space needs to be no wrap, and border needs to be set to 0, like so. And as you can see, now the text is gone, which is a good thing. What we're noticing here though is the behavior of the H1 that has a lot of margin to the top and the bottom, and we're gonna solve this issue in a second. I just need to zoom out. This is how it was gonna look, by the way. On mobile, it's not that big. Okay, now that we've solved this problem, we also need to add a couple of more things. So we have the H1, and now we need to wrap all menus. What I'm gonna do is wrap all of our menus, my mobile menu and the desktop menu, in a single div. And let's call this one .header __ menu. And then inside here is where we're going to be adding the mobile menu. So we can maybe do a quick comment, mobile navigation start. We can duplicate this by doing Alt Shift and down, and this could be end. And then inside here we can add a button. Now, the reason we're adding a button instead of a div is, you probably can guess it, that divs are not really clickable and they're bad for usability. You can use divs as containers and whatnot, and I know that you can do all sorts of stuff with JavaScript, but they're not so accessibility friendly, and that's why I would either use a link or a button whenever you can. And now for this button, let's give it a class name of button, which we'll have to style later on. For short, you could call it BTN if you wish, but I'm going to keep it button just so it's easy to understand for now. And also I'm going to give this button an ID of mobile menu BTN maybe, or you can call it toggle, whatever. And we also want to make this as accessible as possible. I keep talking about accessibility today, but we do need to make sure that we do as much as we can. So what we're going to do is introduce a few more area labels attributes. So let me bring them up. The first one will be area label, and this will be toggle menu, or you can put it as menu, I guess. And then we need to tell the screen readers whether all menu is expanded or not. So what I'm going to do is put area expanded and put this as false, because when we're on mobile, the menu will be collapsed as default, and that's why it's false. And then we need to put area dash controls, and then we need to put the ID of our menu, which doesn't exist yet, but I'm gonna call it mobile menu. Keep it simple. This is it. And for the button inside, I'm just gonna go with an image. I know that I can do this I can potentially start with CSS. I've done it, I usually do it that way, but just to save time, let's just add a very simple image, and this will be source equals image menu.svg. Don't forget to give him alt tags. So what would be? This would be, I don't know, mobile menu, and could potentially give it a loading of lazy, but I don't want it to blink. I mean, it's not too bad, but I don't want it to blink in here. It's only a small SVG, so I'm gonna leave it. And one thing that I just noticed is that I didn't give a width. When I said blink, one thing that I noticed is that I didn't put a width and a height for the logo. And unfortunately, if I go to logo SVG, 43 by 22. Okay, so 43 by 32. I was gonna say, unfortunately, we can't really tell how big they are unless they're an image. When you click on an image, you can kind of tell the size of the image and the megabyte. This is ridiculously big, by the way, but Yeah, that definitely needs to be optimized. It's too big. Let me close this, and the other one will be image menu. So image menu SVG, this is 16 by 11. So let's do width of 16 and height by 11. And to be completely honest, this just helps sometimes with kind of like telling the browser of how big the image is, so we don't get this annoying jump sometimes. I mean, it's one of them things that you might not notice, or it doesn't even happen sometimes. But if you do see that problem, then you just give your images a width and a height. And honestly, this is not going to affect any of our responsive styling at all. I know that it looks weird and it sounds weird, but it won't affect any of our styling at all. As long as you give your image a width of whatever and a height of auto in your CSS, you should be absolutely fine. And now let me first of all finish the desktop menu, and I'm going to talk about this thing here. And in fact, we might as well style it to make it work. So, okay, let's add the desktop menu super quickly. So I'm going to copy this just to, like, so you know. And, this would be desktop, navigation start, oops, desktop navigation end, and then inside here is where we're going to be adding the navigation. And I'm going to use HTML5. So what we can do is nav class of desktop menu, maybe something like this. And then inside here, we can do the same thing as above, actually, potentially. So we can give this, every section would have to have kind of like would have to have a heading. Otherwise, in the outliner will appear as empty, as I said previously. So untitled nav, I mean, it's not a big deal, and if it's annoying, but let's do it anyway. Let's do it. So let's do h1, and then with the class of screen reader dash only, and then we can do main navigation, and inside here is where we're going to be adding our navigation with an ordered list. So to do this, we're going to do UL, and then we're gonna have to stack a few lists. The reason we are doing it with an ordered list is because, again, this is great for accessibility and you can tap through each element if you're using like a screen reader. So what I'm gonna do is inside the list, actually we can put this on one line. Inside the list, we're gonna have a link, href. So I'm gonna keep this empty with hashtag, just so it's not a broken link. In fact, we can definitely give all links a class name, so it's a little bit long, but maybe we can do a class name of desktop menu, and then we can do __ link. This is one of the problems with BEM. The classes become so long, it's a little bit annoying, but at the same time it's really nice as well because of the specificity that it's creating. So inside here we can do home, and now we can definitely duplicate this a couple of times by holding Alt Shift and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. So home, about, we need shop, we need gallery, and we need contact. Just like so. Then another thing that you might want to do is maybe add a class of active, but I'm not gonna be fully making this. So for example, if you are on the about page, you might want to kind of highlight this. So what I would do is create an active class. So at the moment we're on the home page. So what I'm going to do is add a class of active, and then we'll style it later on. So at the moment we don't, let me tidy this up. At the moment, we don't actually need the desktop navigation just yet. So what I'm going to do is on the nav, I'm just going to put hidden and then come back to it a little bit later. Now, let's actually concentrate on the mobile navigation, as this is what we're going to be building first. And annoyingly, I might have to just put it outside the header. Yeah, let's put it outside the header because I wanted to kind of fly out a little bit. I haven't designed it, but I'm just gonna design it on the fly and just make it super simple. In fact, we're gonna do something very similar to this. So what I could do is copy all of this. Let's copy the whole bit, paste in here, and let's do mobile navigation start, mobile navigation end. Then we can do mobile instead and just replace every single thing, oops, by doing, I totally forgot the shortcut now. Oh, here it is. It's Alt Shift Control and then you use your arrow and then you do mobile. Okay, I'm not gonna do the active or mobile, just remove it. Main navigation, I mean, it kind of is main navigation as well, so I'm gonna leave that on. What else do we need? We need one more thing in here, and we probably need a close button somewhere because our menu is gonna fly out and we need to be able to close it. I'm not sure whether to do this with a link or a button. Let's try it with a button. I know it's gonna be weird, but I think I'm gonna do it with a button. So button, and this needs to be tested for usability at some point as well. So what I'm gonna do, button with the class name of mobile nav close, something like this, something that is very explanatory. I don't want to make any shortcuts on this. It's just nice to read and you understand what it is straight away. So that's all good. If I save this, we still have the hidden here, so I'm going to remove that. And as you can see, we get the button here, which is tiny, and we get the links, which are pretty cool. So one thing that I said earlier is this area control that needs to be equals the ID of this mobile menu here. So I'm going to copy this and give it an ID of mobile menu. And the reason for this is that we need to be able to know that when we click this button, we need to change this from area expanded to true. And we need to tell the browser which area we're expanding. And this is how we're kind of linking it with the ID here. So that's why we have it. And we're going to have to manipulate this with JavaScript, which will be a fairly straightforward process to do. So don't worry too much. But we've come a long way on the header. So I think that we should start styling it one by one. So let's go back to styles. Let's create some comments. And I'm just going to copy and paste header section with a lot of equal signs. And now we can start styling our header. If you remember, we used the header class, so I can do this. And if you're familiar and with Flexbox, we can style this super quickly. We can literally split this div into two because we technically have two divs inside, which is the H1 and this header menu. So we can split this section, sorry, the container section into two and push this one to the left and this one to the right. So let me show you how we might be able to do that. Because everything is wrapped in a container, which is a little bit annoying, we're gonna have to do .container, and then we're gonna have to do display, flex, and then we can do justify content and space between. And as you can see now, our logo is here and our menu is here on the right side. If I actually inspect this super quickly, you will see that it's a little bit broken. But yeah, you will see that, I mean, it is a little bit broken at the moment, but you will see that the button is on the right side and this is on the left side. And we're going to fix whatever is broken in a second anyway. So what I'm going to do, let's go back, open this. First of all, I want to position the header to be absolute at the top. So I want the header to be always at the top of everything. So we're going to do position as absolute, and then this could be top of 0, right of 0, left of 0, Z index of 1, padding top of something like 20 pixels, just to give it a little push. And then because we have our logo as an H1, H1s usually have margins as default. So what I can do is do header, actually, because we've done it with underscore, we can even do it this way, underscore logo, and then we can do margin 0. Because we don't have much more here, I'm going to put it onto a one line. So if you go back to the browser, you will see that we have no space. And I think that this white thing is actually the button. I could have hidden it for a sec. So where was it? The menu, let's do hidden, so it doesn't get in the way. But as you can see, we have Z365 here, and we have the toggle menu on the right side here, which is a good thing. But I also want to create this container that I was talking about, where it keeps everything kind of like in the middle. So this is going to be a global class that I can maybe do. In fact, let's just do it around here. Let's see as a problem, and that would be dot container, and then we can do max width of 1621 pixels, and then I'm going to do margin of 0 auto. I'm going to do a padding of 0.20 pixels. So what that happens is every time we have a container, the max width of it is 1621 pixels. The margin is set to 0 on the left and right, which kind of pushes it in the middle. Sorry, the margin is set 0 on top and bottom, and then on the left and the right side is set to auto, which kind of like pushes the whole container in the middle of the page. And then we just have a little bit of padding of 20 pixels to the left and the right, which kind of like fixes stuff for mobile. Let me show you. We have the container in the middle, and if we were to resize this for mobile like so, we have this nice little gap between, because we don't want our content to be right next to the edge. Just looks unprofessional. Now the next thing that I'm noticing is that we need to kind of like align everything in the middle, and Flex makes this super easy. So we can go back to the container and we can do align items of center, and this should fix the issue. As you can see, it's all nicely aligned now. One thing that I want to do in here is give this button a little bit of padding, just so it's easy to press. So I'm gonna have to find what I called it, unfortunately. So I called it, just gave it the class of button. Okay, I'm just gonna use this ID of mobile menu btn. I'm gonna do a hashtag mobile button btn, and then inside here, let's just give it a padding of 10 pixels all around, so it's just a little bit easier to press. And hopefully, yeah, that made it much bigger. And of course, at some point we're going to be resetting this button and making it look a little bit more professional. Just before we finish with this, we might as well just hide it on desktop. So what I'm going to do is when we go towards tablet and desktop, obviously I want this to be hidden. To do this, we can just put a media query in here. So I'm going to do at media and then screen and then screen, and then we're going to do min width of 600 pixels, and then inside here we're basically saying when the width goes above 600 pixels, I want you to hide the mobile menu, which is this one here. So I'm going to copy the ID and just say display none, just like so. And we need to do the reverse thing for the desktop menu. So we could potentially do this now and style it a little bit better. So for the desktop menu, here it is. It's hidden a moment. Let's remove this and let me see if it's showing up. First of all, yep, it's showing up. Let's style this super quickly. I'm not gonna do anything super fancy. I'm just gonna try to copy the design as much as I can. So we have it as desktop dash menu, not a problem. And then we have desktop dash menu link for every single link. Easy peasy. So let's do desktop menu. I definitely need to comment this just like so. Maybe like this, I don't know. And then we can start by doing display none, because display none, because originally we are starting from mobile and we don't want the desktop menu to be displayed. But when we hit this threshold of minimum width 600 pixels, we want to switch to that. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to copy this media query here and just swap things around. So in fact, we don't need any of this. We just need to change display none to display block potentially, we'll see. But because we are under desktop menu, we don't have to specify the name again. So hopefully this should work. We go back and let's go down, and as you can see we get the mobile menu. Let's go up, and as you can see we get the desktop menu. So let me quickly style this. It shouldn't take too long. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna be a little bit lazy on this, and usually you probably want to give your maybe UL class of something. I mean, it would be nice, but let's be super lazy and do it of UL, and then let's reset the UL default of padding 0, margin oops, margin 0. Then we can do list style type of none to remove the bullet points. We can display this as flex because we want every single item to be in one line, just like those equal signs, I guess. And then gap is the gap property, which kind of like gives a gap between every single link on the inside. It doesn't do it on the outside, which is great as well. And now we just need to style some of the links. And to do this, we can do ampersand underscore underscore link. And then let's just give them a little bit of padding of 6 top and bottom, 10 left and right, just so they're easier to press. And then we can do text decoration of none. I don't want them to be underlined. That's all. We might as well just make our layout a little bit better and do a hover effect. So what I'm going to do, interactions, might as well make the interaction better and do a hover effect. So text decoration underline like so. Let's tidy this up. Save. Let's go back. Let me remove this. As you can see, we have the items in here. They're all looking good. When we go down, it switches and so on. Pretty cool. Of course, we're gonna have to change the links to white and so on, but I'm gonna do this as a global thing, so we can definitely do that now if we wish. So let's go maybe around here. We can do all links color of the, and then secondary color. Does that look good? Yep. And there is a lot more properties that we can do for the link, like focus, hovers, what else? There is quite a few, but I'm just gonna keep it to the minimum here and just change the color for now. And as you can see, this is looking fairly nice already. And when we go down and so on, I definitely need to reset the button here. It does look a little bit bad, but I've already got in mind how to do this. So, okay, let me style the button a little bit. And to be completely honest, I already know how I want my default styles for the button to be. So once I do this, this is going to help me with the other buttons. And in fact, we might as well just complete the whole button now. So what I'm going to do is somewhere around here, I'm going to copy this and put something like component. And you can have many reusable components, of course, but I'm going to keep it super simple. We gave our button a class name or button. So what I'm going to do is put button and then start styling it. So I want every single button to be positioned relative. And the reason for this is that sometimes I add icons and they can be positioned absolute inside them, but it's not required. So definitely I want to have it display as inline flex because it makes things easy when I'm aligning stuff. And then I can just do align items to be positioned as center. I can reset the font size to be 1.4 rems, which is equals 1.4 pixels. In this case, font weight, I want to reset to be 400. Line height, I want to reset to 1.5. I want to have text decoration of none. Obviously the buttons, you could create a modifier where you have a button that looks like a link, I guess, with an underline, but that's what I want at the moment. So letter spacing, I'm going to put 1 pixel, and the reason for this is just, I believe that it makes it look a little bit cooler. Text align is going to be center, and then background we need to reset to transparent because I don't want any colors to my button, to my default button, because usually they have some sort of like a weird color to them, like a gray color. So I want that removed, and I want everything to be vertically aligned to the middle, and the user select needs to be set to none, and the border of the button needs to be 1 pixel, solid, transparent, which basically resets the border to a transparent one. And then I'm just going to give it a little bit of padding of 1.16 rem. And I've already calculated this and messed around with it. But of course, I usually just spend some time looking at the design and measuring stuff. So if I go to my this mobile button, we have the class of button there, which is a good thing. And as you can see, the background is now gone and we have the mobile toggle menu here, which is pretty cool. It does look a little bit small, but we can always resize it if we need to. It's looking cool. I gave it a height of 16 and 11. That's all good. The next bit would be to actually pop out the mobile menu and make it look nice super quickly. As I said earlier, I haven't actually designed one, but I'm gonna do it on the fly now. Just do something super basic, I guess. And this is called mobile menu. So let's grab that. I removed the hidden bit so it pops out. So mobile menu, and what are we gonna do it? Maybe around here. Mobile menu, and then we can grab the desktop menu comment, paste in here, and do mobile menu. So mobile menu, I can potentially bring this to the right side of the screen. When we start for, it's okay when we start for mobile, but it's not so good when we start for desktop. So that's why I keep having to switch. But for mobile, we can now focus on this here. And first of all, we do need to hide it at some point. So I'm going to come back to this. First of all, I want to make sure that this looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this as fixed. And then I'm going to do top 0, right 0, bottom 0, and left 0, just like so. So it takes the full height and the width of the available space in here, which is good. Z index, we might have to bring this to, okay, maybe not 100, but something big. We don't want anything over this menu. And now we can actually focus on the UL inside, which is the unordered list. And for this, I could have given it a class name again, but I didn't. Pure laziness. And let's go for padding of 0 to reset it. Margin of 0. List style type is going to be 0. Then I want the background color to be the primary color. So var primary color, like so. Then I want to change the position to be absolute. And here what I want to do is position it from the top 0, right 0, bottom 0. But I want the left to be around 20, I want to say percent of the view width. So it's going to be 20 from the side of here, so 20, kind of like 20% from the view width. And the reason for this is because I'm going to do it like modern menus where the menu pops out from here. And then the left side is kind of like our close button. It's a shame that everything else is black underneath. But what I'm going to do is let me quickly change the body color to something else, just so we can see a little bit better. Anything to give it a little bit of contrast, and I'll come back to this to change it, obviously. That's how this is going to work. So we've reset the list. List style type needs to be set to none, not 0. And we're good. Then we definitely need to style the link. So what I'm going to do is ampersand _ link. And then for the link, we're going to display them as block. So they're clickable all the way from the left side to the right side. That's what's going to do. Display block. And then we can give it a little bit of padding so they're easier to press, of 16 pixels and then 14 pixels, like so. And definitely could have used rems in here. So that could have been 1.6 rem. And then that could have been, would it be 4.0 rem? Yeah, I think so. So that's all looking good already. Text decoration I want to set to none, so we remove the underlines. And the text transform I want to set to uppercase, just so it looks a little bit more modern, I guess. And that's not too bad. Now we have one more thing in here, and this is the actual button that we have in here. I wonder whether I can give this button here a class of button. Let's have a look. Okay, it disappears, which is a good thing. And now what I'm going to do is style this button to be underneath here, and this will be kind of like our close button, and we'll make it work with JavaScript. So what did I call this? Mobile nav close. Okay, sounds good to me. So I'm going to do here mobile nav close, and I'm going to do position as absolute. Top needs to be set to 0, right needs to be set to 0, bottom needs to be set to 0, left did I put 0, and then one cool thing that I want to do is make everything underneath the button kind of blurry. So when we have a image later on with the hero image, it's going to look like blurry and it's going to look super nice. And we can definitely do this with CSS by doing a backdrop and then filter, and then we can do blur, and then we can set how much we want to blur it. So as you can see, the logo is now blurred, and I know that it doesn't look as good just yet, but trust me on this, it's gonna look super cool as when we do it. And one more thing that I want to do is I want to set the background color to red just to test this out, and this is looking cool. I wonder what this is here, this line. So let me open this full width and just check out this line here. We have the button. Is it something to do with okay, I think I need to give this button a width of 100%. Let's have a look whether this fixes it. Oh yeah, it might be that. Yeah, okay, now button is good, there is no problems in here. And now we can close this and just get like that, remove the background of course, and hopefully, yeah, that works it out. The only reason I went for a button is that I was thinking that for usability purposes it might be a little bit better, but it might be even worth just having the X button in here. And one more thing that I noticed is that our buttons are far too close to the top, so let's fix this super quickly. And I mean, let's just give it a padding top of 4 whatever. Okay, that would do the job. It's looking good. They can definitely do with a little bit of a hover. So on each link you can do and hover, and then background color of, I don't want it to be, obviously don't want it to be the same color. Just choose something quickly. Okay, that works for me. Super cool. And now we need to hide it because the default position is hidden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to put the visibility of hidden, and I mean, we could display none as well, but the animation probably won't work. Okay, let's do visibility hidden and let's do transform. And then let's just do translate X, which should be left and right this time. So let's do, I don't know, 620 pixels, something like this. So it's completely gone now. Even if I get this, yeah, it's completely gone now, which is a good thing. And now let's do a transition. And the transition will be transform of 0.25 seconds. Okay, this is all good. And now what I want to achieve is when we press this, the menu to pop out. And to do this, I am going to create an extra class called isActive. So mobile menu, we can definitely just add it here, I guess. We can do and.isActive, and then we can do visibility visible. Yeah, we need transform. In fact, let's just copy this transform, and that needs to be set to 0 now to just like reset it. We don't have to specify pixels anymore, I don't think. And also, do we need transform again? I doubt. Okay, let's test it out. So if I add this class to the mobile menu here, class is active, we get this. And I'm not sure whether the animation works. One way to test it out would be to do this, and then where is it? So it's active. If I remove it now, hopefully we'll see it slide out. Yep, it's lit. Yep, that worked. And then if I add it, it slides in. So that's pretty cool. Let me reset the background color first of all, and then we'll concentrate on the rest. Oh, the background color was to the body, so I don't forget. Where is it? Right, not so bad. The original state of this is obviously hidden. So here it is. We have our menu. When we go up, everything is working as well, and so on. So we're gonna have to write a little bit of JavaScript to make this work, but to be completely honest, it should be fairly straightforward. So let's jump back to the code editor, and I'm gonna open the Explorer, and I'm going to open JS and script.js by double clicking on it. Let's minimize everything else that we don't need, and let's start writing our script. There are a few things that we need to know now. So in our index.html, we need to know the class name of this or the ID. So I could potentially use this mobile menu class, or you can use the ID as well. I can show you, actually I can show you a bit of both. So this is mobile menu that needs to show and hide. Then we need the button itself, which is the mobile menu button, and that's self-explanatory. It's an ID of mobile menu button. And we also need the close button, which was, oh, it's here. So that has a class. Let's just use the class of mobile nav close. All right, that's fairly self-explanatory as well. So we have classes, and okay. So this is just going to be commented, by the way, just for me to know what I'm doing. First of all, we need to be able to select this button so we can bind an event listener to it. Every time we click on it, we want something to happen. To do this, we can do we can give it a name of mobile menu btn just to stay consistent, and this will be equals to the element on the page. To get the element on the page, we need to do query selector, and then inside here we can actually pass an ID or a class name, but in this case we have an ID. So I'm gonna do an ID of mobile menu btn. Close this. We need to copy this line and do the same thing for this here. So this would be mobile menu maybe, and then we can use the class name of mobile menu. I could have kept it consistent, but it doesn't matter. And by the way, this is a class name. Don't get this wrong. It is a class name. And then the last thing that we need to do is the close button, which we can duplicate another line, and let's just do mobile menu close btn. Yeah, that'll do. And then we need to copy the class name, paste it inside here, and we should be good to go. All right.